I'm Sir Lorccán, and I'm making this video to answer some questions about transitions, as in transitions from one shot to another, one angle to another in a fight. Using this sword so you can see clearly what my hand is doing. My white edge is my true edge, it's in line with my knuckles. The blue edge is my false edge, that's the edge I'm going to strike with a wrap. Red here indicates the sweet spot of the sword that I want to be striking with whenever I can. I am going to be using my shield for most of this so that you can see how that integrates. Your shield may be different. You're still going to have to work around it and incorporate it into whatever techniques you use. I normally fight from a guard about like this. That doesn't mean that these techniques or transitions are limited to that, but these are ones that work with that basic guard, and if you want to modify them, let me know if you can't figure it out. One quick type of transition that I want to discuss before getting my shield into the mix is simple transitions from thrusts to edge blows and back. Typically, we strike with the palm down, thrusting, say an I. We can very quickly turn this into a forehand blow by relaxing, recocking the hip. See, I thrust using my body to extend. I just relax and throw the forehand. It's very smooth, it's very quick when it's done right. You can apply this in a lot of different ways. This doesn't have to be a high target either. For instance, let's say that I went for a lower line, going for the belly button. I can still, by doing the same thing, throw that shot very smoothly. Likewise, I can do this with an offside. If I have thrust my palm up, I can relax, turn, and just roll it over. I'm just going from here to here, or from here to here. With a little practice, that can be very smooth and very quick. The other side of this coin is, let's say I've thrown a forehand blow, and now I want to thrust. I can relax, and turn it over, and now I've got a thrust. Extended, relaxed. Same thing goes for the other side. If I've thrown an offside, and now I want to thrust into that side, I just scoop, move forward. This can often be used to drop a target with an offside. If you've thrown for the offside head, and now you want to go for the offside body. But that same basic transition from strike to thrust, or from strike to thrust. If you can work in your body recovering there, so for instance if I'm throwing a forehand, and as my hand relaxes, I don't actually need to draw back this much, but I can recover, and now I've got as much power as I need to deliver the next shot. And the same thing with the thrust, where I typically don't need, if I'm going for a face shot, much power. I can extend, get a little bit of hip on it, and very quickly recover and throw. Because the rotation of the hips is used to shift momentum. It's not actually about how many degrees of rotation you need to make it happen. If you don't have 37 degrees, it's not enough. It is about being able to shift your weight and momentum. And you don't need to make that a big movement that takes a lot of time. It can be very quick if you strike, and as soon as you strike, you relax and recover. So now I want to talk more about edge blow to edge blow transitions. And I'm going to use the classic 1 through 6 drill that a lot of people all over the known world have seen. By now, I've heard it attributed to several different people, including Duke Paul of Bellatrix and Duke Radnor from the west. I have no idea, but it's a very useful drill because it works transitions. And as I work this drill, I always want to make sure that I've got my balance, that I've got my defense in place, and that when the shot lands, it lands with accuracy and power. I'm doing this slow, so the power is more a mental thing than anything. I would need to be looking for, did I move my body? Did I shift the momentum into there? Did I breathe out as it landed? I'm not actually judging it on how hard do I hit the thing, but on can I deliver the power from there? Occasionally you'll find something that looks neat, where you can say, I can connect from point A to point B, but you can't really deliver power that way. And if that's the case, that's usually not a good technique to spend a lot of time or energy on. So, on my target, I use number 1 for the left side of the head, right at the temple. Number 2 is the off side of the head. Number 3, I'll either use the armpit or just above the hip. Generally, that's the body, and I'll use one of those 2 marks for it, depending on what makes more sense. Because there are times where going for the armpit makes no sense, and times where going for the hip doesn't really make any sense either. Number 4 is the opposite side. Number 5 is going to be the leg just above the knee at that lowest legal target, where I'm practicing getting past the shield and getting the bottom of the thigh, not shooting right for the dead middle of it. I need to be able to be accurate in hitting that spot to get those legs that are well defended. Number 6 is the opposite side, same spot. And the way that this drill goes, in case anyone is unfamiliar, is you start at number 1 and you throw 2-shot combinations with number 1 of the first shot, and then go through all 6 of the targets in order for the second shot. So 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6. And then you go to 2 and you go 2, 1, 2, 2. I hope you got it by now. If not, there are videos on this drill, other places on there. So now I want to show you, here are some of the different ways that I find it works to actually do these many different combinations. You go through this drill the whole way, you've got 6 points, and each one of them has 6 shots, so there are 36 different combinations of targets, and I'm going to try to show you at least one, if not multiple ways to handle each of those 36 combinations of targets. Hope you don't get bored too easily. I start out of range because I don't want to make it a habit of starting my fight when my opponent can already hit me. Sometimes I will start the fight from in here, but then I always want to have my guard up when I'm ready to start each encounter. But I normally try to start out of range and finish out of range with my guard up. This is good practice for a real fight. Okay. Taking a step and throwing at target number 1. And from here, my next target is number 1. I can relax and just throw the same thing and recover out. But I can also mix it up. I can throw forward, I can step in, and throw at it again from a much different angle. Also, that was a terrible recovery of mine there, because I was talking to the camera instead of recovering my blow well after that. Forehand, step offline, throw it, recover it. Only so many productive variations of that double tap. But that double tap can be really useful if your opponent has a good quick block of the first shot and will be caught peeking by the next shot. The next setup, forehand Forehand to the head, forehand to the body. And step back. If you mix in back edges, this can get more interesting. For instance, forehand, wrap to the body. If you can get your opponent to really raise their defense a little too much, you can also work in a shield hook or press at this point. Throw the forehand to get their shield up, raise up the shield, blast the body. Now, number 1 to number 5. I'm going down the same side because it's an old habit and I've renumbered my belt and still sometimes forget. Working here. Okay. Forehand to the head. Forehand to the leg. Step back. Each time that I throw this pair of forehand blows, I'm driving my hips with the first shot, recocking, and driving my hips with the second shot. I don't know how well that's really coming off in the video, but that's where the power for these shots would come from. And it's really important. If you switch from onside to offside, power generation can switch up a little bit. But when you're throwing 2 shots on the same side, really important that you strike, relax, and recover so that you can throw that second strike without additional delay. Okay. Now I'm going for that leg again. This time I'm going high head and coming in tight for the leg and stepping out. You can see there I duck just a little bit, really not throwing myself far off to get that shot in close. A wrap would make more sense for that target if we were using those for this drill. Bam. Oh, went to the wrong one. My mistake. Don't remember. Forehand, wrap here, or forehand, wrap here. Both work. My apologies if I'm getting this out of order. I'm trying. Another way to go here is throw the shot, close in under it, and throw the next one in tight. Stepping into your sword is a great way to recover without opening anything up for your opponent. When I do that, I'm clogging my opponent's lines of attack where I'm most vulnerable, and buying myself time to recover well and throw a good shot without worrying too much about my defense because I'm on offense. Now, switching from number 1, striking the offside targets. So in and out, forehand to the head, and here, normally I'm going to relax, and as I take a step, if I take a step, I'm going to rotate and throw the offside shot. My body is doing a simple 1-2 here. 1, 2. It's really natural, especially if you take that step with the other foot. Forehand, backhand. This works just fine if you're coming from a sword leg trailing position as well. If you step with that foot, step with that foot. You're going to see a lot of that basic dynamic with these onside-offside combinations because it works. Forehand, deep step around to the backhand. You're really reaching for the back of the head at that point. Same basic mechanic though. Another option here is to stay at range. Forehand, backhand. Yeah. Keeping my maximum range out there. Something you'll notice is backhand are not the same. The backhand has a little bit less range for that shot normally. Not a lot, but if I'm here or here, I have a little more reach. The way my shoulder works and the way your shoulder works too. Same thing. Extending this way versus extending this way. So just keep that in mind. That's one reason why throwing the forehand and stepping in to throw the offhand is really common. It's because the offhand has a little bit less range. You start with the forehand that has the maximum range, so you put your pressure on your opponent, and then you step in to throw the other shot that changes up the angle from a range where you're not worried about being close enough. Let me know if that doesn't make sense. Okay. Forehand. Offside. Messy because I hit the shoulder. See there, what I did was I threw the forehand, and as I threw the offside, I raised my hand to get over an obstacle. Let's say that a shield was here. So it struck there. That can be really handy, especially for shorter fighters. Getting used to raising your hand well above the shot, the target you're throwing at. Likewise, you can do the same thing with lower targets. You can raise the tip up above your hand. That can be invaluable in close. I think that's enough 1 to 2. Now we're going to go to 3. 1 to 3. Again, striking downward. This gets around a lot of shields better than a straight shot. The other really useful transition there for getting around shields is to throw the forehand and then a Molinet to the lower body target. And what I'm doing there is throwing this, relaxing, and I'm throwing there. From the elbow, I'm reaching down and turning my hand up so that the blade lands edge into the target instead of flat against it. Not difficult to do, but you have to pay attention to that twist at the end, like you were twisting the throttle on a motorcycle. Okay, let's see. Now we're going forehand to offside leg. For this, I can throw to here and step a little bit wider to make room for that shot. Stepping a little bit offside helps make sure that my sword isn't crammed against me. Another option is throw the shot, step in, and throw it at a downward angle, cutting across and out. That'll often hit a shield. That's not as good of an option as much of the time, but it's one way to generate the power. More often, stepping in and giving that shot a little bit of room to develop is going to be a better deal. If you strike with the short stick down here, it's very often going to be perceived by your opponent as a weak, pushy shot instead of a crisp strike. And that is the combinations from target number 1. Now let's do target number 2. That's the offside head. Striking here, I'm extending, reach out. The logical follow through here for me is relax and step in, and now my hip is cocked again. Now I can throw the forehand as hard as I want to. But that is another one of those cases where you've got to recover your body quickly and smoothly. Stepping in under the cover of the sword can help you do that. Another option is to roll off to one side. Or change into a wrap. lateral movement, or that change from a strike with the front edge to a strike with the back edge, gives that a little more room to develop, and depending on the opponent and where their shield is, can be more useful. Outside head to the body. Gotta make sure you're covering your head with your shield well when you're going from an offside that's helping cover this side of you to an onside shot that's going to open your head well up. One way to do it, stepping in, bringing the shield into your opponent's face, and moving off to one side, getting you power and room to throw. Another approach thing. Slid on these little gumballs on the board. Sorry. Hope you got the idea. And then onside leg, number 5. Again, switching to a wrap for the second blow makes this more interesting. Hitting myself in the head with the shield also makes it more interesting. Excuse me while I reset that. One can also, again, throw this and roll off to the side with that passing 45-degree kind of step that gives you a little more room to throw the shot instead of being crushed up against your opponent. Okay. Offside head to offside head. 2, 2. This can be really simple, but it takes a little practice to get used to. You're throwing the same shot angle with 2 different power centers. Basically stepping in and throwing by driving this hip forward, then stepping in and throwing with the opposite hip. It works, but a lot of people find it a little challenging at first. Until you've done it enough times, and it clicks. But throw it from here, we throw forehand or backhand, and as I step, my hip recovers, my arm relaxes, and then I can throw it again from there, or instead of recovering the hip, I keep it chambered and turn into it. It's either 1, 2 or 1, 2. Please let me know if there's any difficulty with that one. Stepping down the target to the body, to either the armpit or the hip. Things get a little more interesting. We're going to strike here, relax, and strike here. Again, using that front hip, back hip shift. I can throw 2, getting a little lower, stepping away. Or you can also use the back edge of the blade there. A little awkward though. And this is one of those things where the first shot affects the second shot for me because of the angles that it sets up. If I go back real quickly to target number 1, I can throw here and then throw the back edge to number 4 much more naturally than I can, for me, throwing that transition from 2 to 4. You'll find what works for you, but I just don't think that the room is there to make the transition from 2 to 4, or 4 to 4, or 6 to 4 nearly as natural as one of the onside targets to that offside body with the back edge. I also recommend pelling the back edge shot thoroughly before you try it in a shot, or in a fight, because if you overextend with it, you can hurt your wrist fairly easily. I just include it there because it is part of the toolbox. Now, going from number 2 to number 6. The basic version of that I prefer is to reach out and throw with this hip, and then throw something like a Molinet, driving it with this hip, getting closer as I go. I can keep this at range if I need to. Go forehand, recover, throw low. That doesn't suit me as well personally. I like to get in a little closer for that. And now we've done target 1 connected through the other 6, and target 2 connected through the other 6. Now we're going to go to target 3, and I am going to mix up which target is number 3 and which target is number 4 as I go here, based on what seems to make sense in a fight. If this muddies the waters, let me know what I need to do. I very rarely am going to have an open shot for the underarm here, but I might have a first shot going to the hip. That actually makes some sense to me. So here I am with my first shot. I'm going to relax, step off line to get that forehand to the head, and I'm out. Likewise, I might throw here, recover, and maybe I get that rising rib shot if they thought I was going for a headshot next. Not a high percentage. If I just want to throw 2 shots to the body in a row, 1, 2. It's simple, it's the same mechanic as the 2 headshots in a row or anything else. It's just strike, recover, strike. Relaxing in between so that I can actually do it. And then cascading. Leg. Those falling combinations are a lot more comfortable a lot of the time. Same thing as from here to here, or from here to here. Working downward, relaxing, and throwing the next lower target comes more naturally for most people that I can, and in my experience. Not saying you need to do what comes naturally. Actually, charging at someone with a sword doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. It's still fun. Okay. I think we've covered number 3 adequately, given that it's not a target you start with a lot. Now I'm going to start with number 4, which is also kind of an awkward starting target, but it's worth considering, because it happens sometimes. Let's say that I close in and go for the armpit. Now from here, forehand to the head is one option. There. Offside to the head, also an option. Offside to the armpit, forehand to the hip. That's not a bad combo. But you have to really sell this shot as a threat, or else that target's not likely to be open for you. You're likely to be getting hit in the head. I just realized we forgot to do number 3 to the offside targets. I'll finish number 4 first. Going low for number 4, first shot. Rising up to the offside. going from low offside to high offside is not something your opponent is likely to expect. If you can make it work, it's really useful to surprise. But people don't expect it because it can very often end up slow and awkward. Now I'm going to go back to just target number 3, because I believe I forgot to do the shots from number 3 to 2, 4, and 6. Stepping in, going for the hip. From here, relax, step in, throw that offside. That's great if they had to move their shield to cover the hip in the first place. If they didn't, then you can still surprise them by closing in and going for that offside head. But what they had to do to deal with that first shot is going to affect what your options are for the second shot. That's one where, again, I'm starting here, relaxing, raising up to get the offside. I'm not actually standing up to do it, I just do that when I'm going through the motions. When I'm actually throwing these shots, I try to keep my spine upright, and I try to make sure that I make as much or as little height adjustment as necessary to do the shot, but no more than that. Again, I could lead off to the other side as I'm doing this. That's not a bad setup for striking somewhere here, and then striking inside of this leg, or sorry, the inside of this leg. That's shooting for this target right here. Depending on your opponent's shield style and stance, that may be wide open. And if the first shot blinds them instead of killing them, going for that inside thigh can be gold. Okay, I think we're ready to do the 2 lower targets. So I'm going to take a break for a quick drink. It's warm here, folks. Okay. Now the low line starting targets. These are popular with a lot of people as starting targets because most people start off covering their head reasonably well, and striking to the low target will force a lot of opponents to change their guard in some way. And every time you have to change something, it creates openings. So, starting with number 5, attacking for this spot right here. Now, from here, I'm reaching, a little extended. If I want to get that forehand shot to number 1, I can still do it. Taking a little shift off the line helps. It also helps me sometimes get toward my opponent's back of the head. And also change this up to a wrap. Forehand, wrap to the back of the head, or side. That can be really useful. This is where considering relative range of these shots is really relevant. This shot, where I'm right in the middle of it, I am out of the range of the leg. Same difference will go for your opponent. If you're in range for their forehand to your head, you are likely just out of range of their forehand to your leg on unless you got one leg sticking out there, in which case this and this can be in range at the same time. Really depends on how you're set up, how you're moving, where your shield isn't covering. Let's see here. Okay. Forehand leg to forehand leg, I believe, is next. From here, stepping off gets me some room to do that and helps me recover. Don't throw that terribly often. What's a little more common for me would be to throw forehand, wrap. Closing in a little bit as I do it to cover the movement and keep my opponent from looking at what I'm doing and instead worried about the fact that I'm closing and I might be going from here to here or something else. But if their defense is in place, I might just tap the leg again, changing the shot, change the angle, and get somewhere a little different. For people that block quadrants, that just read the incoming threat as, you know, high right, high left, or high right, low right, high left, low left. If that's all somebody's reading, changing from a forehand to a wrap can really change up what's happening there. And hit them when they think they've got it blocked. I love hitting people when they think they've got it blocked. Usually a little bit easier if I've got a good, safe angle to work from. Striking here, over the shield to the underarm can also be gold. And again, that's 1, 2. And also, keep it low when I'm doing this. But what's often most useful is going to be with this as a first target. Forehand, backhand. Going from the leg to the head. And for me, closing in a little bit from the first shot to the second shot makes that really work more comfortable. Okay, offside leg as the starting target. A lot of people find this one the most challenging. It's because you're already reaching down a little bit to hit the first target. To me, the way to make this work is mostly a matter of footwork, of closing and staying upright so that I'm not in an awkward position on my as I move from my first shot to my second. First shot, I'm still upright. My knees are bent a little to get me down there without overexposing myself. So from here, forehand. From here, backhand. And you see I'm closing in a lot there, and the forward movement helps deliver the power with the shot. This is also a case where using my back edge to go from here to here could work, but because I'm starting on the offside, it just doesn't feel that good. It doesn't deliver a lot of power. What I actually find I'm better off with there is going to a thrust. That's much more comfortable, it's smoother, and it's faster than trying to work the back edge in there from down here. Your mileage may vary a little, but I think you'll find that most of the time that's true as a general guide. Now if I go here and I want to hit it again, yeah, a little funky, but the bottom line to me is squatting a little bit, it's sitting down a little bit, it's not leaning a lot to make it happen. So it's 1, too. I can also change this to strike downward at the leg. I just need to make sure my opponent's leg is presented in such a way that I can really strike it perpendicular to the leg. If I end up too close to parallel to the leg, the shot's just going to slide off. And that's a bad time, because at that point I tend to be really exposed. But if I go for that, I can go for that, and it can work. So if I haven't lost my count too much, I've just gone through more than 36 different ways to address the 36 basic combinations of target in the 1 through 6 drill. There's a whole lot more I could do, but I need a break, and this video is probably getting a little long. I'm going to stop it there.